So, to get things started, I have a question. TypeScript with React. Yes or no? And why?
Yes, definitely.
Why?
We use it a lot for, I think, almost 1 year or 1 year and a half, since version 6 or something. Even before it supported JSX and those kind of things. And it really saves us a lot of time. First of all, it helps a lot with communicating your APIs to other teams. I mean, they load your packages and they get the typings, out completion. And it's also has been a big help for us in refactoring. So once you start refactoring and moving stuff around and you've solved your compile errors, you basically know that things will still work if you didn't touch logic too much, if you didn't break any imports or names or typos, those kind of things.
Any reason not to use TypeScript, or any one of you guys against it? All right.
I'm not saying no to TypeScript. I'm saying yes to typing. But in the context of React, I personally prefer Flow. That said, outside of the context of React, I'm over TypeScript. So I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying an explicit yes.
Why?
Flow is just a bit tighter of an integration with React, in my opinion.
It's a generic opinion.
Yeah.
But Flow is good as well.
Flow's good too. I like Flow.
Yeah, I think like a very important thing to add here is that we native counts with flow types. So it feels like a control choice when building a React native app.
So it's kind of a tie we're getting you. The pluses on both sides.
You can always try both.
Sometimes we won't get the clearance, unfortunately, from a panel, you know. But you all are pro types, so that's already better. All right. So I had a special question prepared here. Mobix is coming, but I want to know what's going to happen next. So what's going to happen in 2017 after Mobix?
Well, I heard rumors that there will be an awesome game engine. It might use Mobix, but that's totally behind the scenes, of course. And so we'll be building much cooler stuff than just those boring web applications. More into game development because it will be accessible for anybody, right?
So do you know about any frameworks coming that already seem to be picking up speed, except Mobix, of course? Something really new with 5 stars, but rising to 7?
That's really hard to tell. So once you go into the open source business and trying to get a library out yourself, it becomes harder to follow what the rest of the world is doing. So I think I'm not the best one to judge that.
So I guess we'll be surprised in 2017 as we were every year before now, which is fine. All right. Let's take a question from the audience. Anyone? Back there, really, really far? No? Oh, Alex is running, so.
Hey guys, thank you. First of all, thank you for all of your talks, they were great. Coming from Angular, I really had a frustrating time working with forms in React, and I kind of tried several libraries, and I just wanted to ask, what are your suggestions in handling forms like validations, async validations, and all that kind of stuff? Like, what do you use from your experience? What's a good place to start?
For Mobix specific, there are...
Now be good, yeah.
There has recently been a lot of development on Redux forms inspired libraries and other form libraries. And I think last week Mobix Inputs was published, and that looked very decent to me. I didn't work with it myself yet, but I would take a look at that one. Somebody has an issue not related to Mobix? Is
Henry there?
So I don't have a great answer for you. I will say that forms are like the worst part of React. Like forms are probably like the one area where React's unidirectional data flow, which is usually awesome, becomes kind of a pain in the ass. I've never personally found, I haven't tried this MobX thing, but I've never personally found like a third-party library that did forms like the way I wanted it to be done. And every form's like its own little special snowflake. So one problem that I know we had at my last job is like every person who started to do a form would like write their own like abstraction around forms, and it would never be like quite what the next person needed. So we just had like 15 different form abstractions, and it was horrible. So I usually just do it the long way every single time, which isn't a very satisfying answer, but it's just one of those areas where like I've accepted that, at least for now, there's not like a great, like magical, fantastic solution that works for like every single edge case. There's this thing on Redux form, which some people like. I don't like it personally, just because I don't think that Redux is a good place to be putting form state. But that's the one thing that people have told me that they like, but I personally don't like it. So sorry I don't have a good answer for you, but I guess I'm just echoing your frustration that this is one area where like React's component model isn't all that super convenient. So
sounds like a chance for someone to create a new open source library. Wink. Everyone of you. What about the React Redux forms? Anyone of you tried it before? Kind of different from the Redux forms. But check it out. There are a few options out there. So the most popular one doesn't have to be the best one. I have another question. It's a bit more complicated. What do you think is missing from React? Like React is amazing, it does everything. We know forms are a problem now, but what else you feel like React should improve to really take the front stage? Is there a problem there? Perfect is also an answer.
Well, so I mentioned some of the things that I think, well, so I wouldn't say missing, but things that would be really cool if it had, which are, I mentioned this in the talk, but what I'm really excited about is integrated layout. I think they're like some really cool, in combination with the scheduling stuff that I mentioned that is coming with Fiber, and the concurrency stuff that's coming with Fiber. I think there's some really cool applications that are going to open up once it becomes a lot cheaper to do animations and layout in React. And it's just going to make web apps just 10x more responsive and pleasant to work with, and make them feel a lot more like really rich native apps experiences. I'm really excited to see like where people push React's React paradigm and where they push it into new areas. As if anyone's seen React Motion, that's a pretty cool project. It works by essentially just like re-rendering a component like on every single frame, which is kind of wasteful, but it works surprisingly well for what it is. In the future, it'd be cool like if you could use React and like render it on every frame and not have to worry about it being wasteful or being like unperformant and stuff like that. So I think that'll be a really exciting area that the React community gets into.
When do you think we're going to see fibers in the official React release?
I'm not promising anything.
A wild guess. Unrecorded. I'm not going to record this.
I mean, if I were being like honest, probably not before the end of the year, but it's very high on the priority list.
Sounds close enough.
Very close. As soon as possible.
Any other stuff you guys think React can really use?
I think there's a lot of stuff going on around CSS and browser styling, but I feel like it's missing an idiomatic way of working with classes and styles, which doesn't involve building a complete tool chain. I'm quite jealous about how Vue does it, for example, where they have nicely the styling alignment file and it's scoped automatically, and I think there's something to gain for React.
Sounds like that's coming slowly though, through third parties. Slowly. Alright, cool. We had some question back there, yes. You can ask it from there if you want, if you have a strong voice.
Hey guys, that's actually not a technical question, so don't kill me please. For the MobX project, okay, sorry for just talking about this. you started Mobix as a utility for you to get like better performance and better manageability of your app. But eventually it got a lot of traction, and now suddenly a lot of focus is now on Mobix. How a company deal with that? How do you like manage your resources? Suddenly you need to manage a project, like an open source project, I guess, right? And there's a lot of effort, and there's a community suddenly that you need to take care of. Can you share some light about all the aspects that now you need to take care of it?
Yes. So luckily, Mobix didn't change much since like the beginning of this year or something. I mean, some features were added, but in essence, it stayed the same for all the time. So mainly all the effort went into documentation and example and sharing of thoughts. And so one thing I really learned is that whenever somebody asks a question on Twitter or GitHub, and you see the same question for a second or a third time, you really have to take effort to write down the question and the answer and put it in documentation. And that saves a lot of time. And there's also quite a bunch of people who were with Mobix from the beginning, and they take actually a lot of effort to answer questions on in GitHub issues and in Gitter. And so the amount of people supporting it grows quite similar to the amount of people using it. So that keeps it scalable. And besides that, I think it's always important when you're doing open source that you realize that you're not obliged to anything. I mean, people are using it and they're using it for free, but it doesn't mean that you are obliged to respond to them. I mean, there's a responsibility also for people consuming open source.
Good answer. Wait, I have another question. Then Bill, if you.
So I'd like to know, what do you think about frameworks, what the future of frameworks with declarative data fixtures such as Relay and Falcon? What do you think, where do they all fit?
So the question was, what's the future of declarative frameworks, Relay, Falcon, and similar with regards to React, of course?
So before I joined Facebook last week, I was at a company called OpenGov, and since last August, we're using Relay in one of our apps, and it is fantastic. Relay is really cool. GraphQL is also really cool. But Relay is a really good, nice client. I like it way more than any kind of Flux or Redux-based solution for data fetching that I ever used. People ask me about like data fetching in Redux like for the last year, and I've been like, I don't know, I haven't done it in a while. We use Relay, and it's just so nice to have like a declarative way to declare data dependencies, deal with caching, pagination, all this stuff that if you use something like Redux, you gotta handle yourself, and is prone to a lot of errors because it's just a very inherently complicated problem. So I'm very bullish on Relay. A lot of people seem to be intimidated by its API or think like, why is it so complicated, or why do I have to do all this typing and setup and stuff? In my experience, there are some weird areas of Relay, specifically around mutations. They're getting better at Relay too, it looks like, from what I can tell. But in my experience, the trade-off is totally worth it. There's a little bit of awkwardness, a little bit more typing, but you get so many features. We have maybe 1 or 2 minor data fetching related bugs the entire time that we were using it, which is like way fewer than we had in like the last app I worked on, where there's always some weird data fetching bug with Flux or Redux. And so I couldn't be a bigger fan of Relay. I think it's Falcor, but all of these like declarative data fetching solutions I'm like very bullish on. I think it's a super exciting area. I encourage everyone to try it out if they can.
I just really want to see what is in Relay too. The initial Relay was a little verbose for my taste. So, until I see Relay 2, I probably can't say or make any recommendations. But afterwards, check Twitter, I'll certainly weigh in.
I have another question for you guys. So, I've seen a lot of different boilerplate projects online. A lot of them startup kits, some of them huge, some of them smaller. And I know many new developers coming to React usually have a problem, they don't know where to start. So they go for the biggest one, and then they can't use it because it's too big. Do you have any recommendations for a good starter kit that you would consider a solid base for an application, but that's not too much, too fat?
Create React app is dope. Super dope. Up until now, I mean, there's been like CLI and everything like that, but one feature that I think is really great is eject, right? So you use CLI to generate your app, and it kind of has like packaged up dependencies and scripts. But when you're like, hey, like this little thing that I built quickly is cool now, and let's take this to the next level. You can run eject, if you even need to, but if you need to, you can run eject. And it kind of undoes all that. It kind of just gives you the unpackaged version. So now you're not married to Create React app anymore. And now in later releases, there's a way to add your own React scripts, which is like your own setup. So it's pretty extensible. I think it's great. That and Max Over's boilerplate React boilerplate, that's phenomenal as well.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the React boilerplate, I would say it's probably one of the best boilerplates that are available in the open source, mainly because it's greatly documented. And that's the most important thing, because I've seen a lot of boilerplates, and we have seen a lot of code made with these boilerplates, and the biggest issue is that they shield a lot of features. And some of these features are not even needed for your project. And without the great documentation, you either spend a lot of time figuring out how to remove them, or you just leave them, which produces quite a mess in your code. And in terms of React Native, I would say that we have CLI, and there is the init command, so you can set up a very, very basic app with just one file. But I think it's a great starting point, and then you can just follow your case or use pretty much any structure you want.
I used to create React app for setting up demos quickly or in predictions of bugs or those kind of things. But besides that, npm init is really my boilerplate. It's all I like the best because there's stored functions. For one, you start and add things whenever you need them, so that you keep track everything is added regularly. And secondly, it makes it easy to vary from project to project and try out a different tool and give that a shot. And for the third time in a row, try to use Brush to find some webpack and build out stuff for a while. So I like to keep track of what's going on.
Just really quickly, I used to tell people that before creating a React app, I used to tell people just like if you've never used React before, just like drop a script tag and just use that the first time while you're still learning, and then like worry about people. The problem is people they never used React before, and they'll try and learn React, Babel, Webpack, Redux, React Router, LobX. They'll try to learn like 7 things all at once, CSS modules, and it's just overwhelming. Like focus on like one thing at a time. So first, just focus on React. As you realize maybe you need routing, add React Router maybe. As you realize maybe you need to extract some state, use LobX or Redux. Just add one thing at a time. Otherwise, there's no reason to get overwhelmed just because all the cool kids are using all these fancy tools. So create a React app is the way to go. No, by the way, it's awesome. I concur with everything everybody else said.
Cool, thank you guys. Any more questions from the crowd? You're next.
I have a very general question. All of we are here front-end developers, but we are young, and we have some problems in front-end, but still we have some room to evolve ourselves. And I want to ask you about what do you think about full-stack development as a robust thing? Do you think it is going to happen in the nearest future? Or do you think it should be separated all the time, backend and frontend, and it's totally different and shouldn't be messed up?
Tough one.
At Mendix, we have this notion of trying to achieve vertical teams, so teams that are responsible for a set of features, from both in backend and frontend. And we also allow all teams to choose their own stack, so sometimes that collides. But I think full stack might very well work, but you have to adapt for it in how you structure your teams, because you have to distribute your skills differently among the teams. And so yeah, I think it's feasible, but not a necessity.
All right, Idan?
Well, I agree on one thing, if it's okay.
You disagree? Or you agree?
No, I agree. I just wanted to say that I think that being a full-stack developer is important in the sense that if you work on a React project, for instance, and you want to do something on the server side, or you just want to deploy your app or do things like that, it's good to have knowledge what's happening, provide some expertise, or maybe build a small server API that will help you with development. I wouldn't say that full-stack developers will be popular in sectors like banking or stuff like that, where backend expertise is very important. But for most of the projects that are based on the mean stack, I think it's good because one day you can be doing a React Native app, and the second day you can be doing a server-side app, which helps you to kind of grow your knowledge and just don't get tired of doing a single thing all the time. So to me, it's a good thing. Like at a company, at ColdStack, we have a lot of full-stack developers. I would say most of them are full-stack developers, just because of that.
Yeah.
So, the React Chrome DevTools plugin, what do you wish it did for you?
I'd really like to get like a per component render perf. That'd be great. Aside from that, I mean, they're pretty great.
Time travel would be cool. I don't really see anything stopping us from doing that, honestly. This is the only one that comes to my head right now, though.
You mean time traveling with Redux or our library, or pure React?
You don't need to do Redux to do time travel. You can do time travel.
You mean saving the state of these components and?
Yeah, just go back and look between state. It would be kind of nifty.
A new challenge. Another question? I'm sorry for the guy sitting way back. We tried to get you to move forward, but you didn't accept it. But I'll give you a chance as well.
So I'm not really sure how to ask this, but who would you say out of the React community is the Justin Bieber?
Personally, I would say resoundingly that would be Mike Grabowski here. Everybody give it up for Mike. Wow.
You'll get a picture in a second. And someone at the back there. You're far. So far.
Hey guys, my question is mostly about React Native. We are in the process of trying to implement our SDK, which is mostly for Node server-side in React Native now. And we have come to a problem where we are relying on third-party large libraries that have dependencies, that we don't want to go in and change all the sub-modules that they need. And we ended up needing to browserify the whole thing into a huge file. Problems when you try to import it into React Native. So the question is, first of all, what are the limitations on the size of file that you can use as a library? And second, what is the best practices when you want to import a Node module which is not React Native friendly, not pure JavaScript to begin with?
So of those large modules, how much of them are you using?
Yeah, there is a big part of them that if you just take it as is not really used. It's just code that is never actually accessed. like a Redis library or something like that. But sometimes removing them is a bigger pain than actually just having it there and not being used.
You could.
I was just answering Ken, who was asking if we could tree shake that out, and I was saying, sorry?
Yeah, we noticed that the packager, if we got this big file and we minify it, it goes through, but if it's not minified, it falls under heap stack memory errors, stuff like that.
It sounds like you need a bit of personal help, so maybe after the panel, if the guys have a second.
I was wondering if there is a specific limitation that you know of in React Native in terms of inputting stuff in, and if there is like a different packager system that is out there that we can use to create those files.
Sorry, I don't think I'm going to be much help.
So I'll buy one of you a beer if you later on, okay?
Wait for them outside, don't let them go.
Yeah, okay. We can talk specifics. Afterwards.
I have a short question for all of you guys. When you work on a big project, tell me maybe one library or tool that you use that you don't think is well known outside, but it's super useful for yourself.
Some library that what?
Some library or tool that you use when working on a project that's super useful, but you don't think the world knows about. So something not very popular, but really good. There is a decompose shout from the crowd.
1 year ago, I would say MobX. But, I mean, I think I can't say this anymore. This is popular.
Any maybe debugging tool or something that's really nice that you discovered. Let's say, for example, Webpack dashboard or stuff like that I heard about. I don't know. It's not cool anymore.
We did a fun experiment a week ago, where we figured that we sometimes find our web pixels too slow, and we just load our complete web application into Electron. And then you can skip the whole web building, and there's also require hooks. It was already mentioned in one of the line talks, the CSS modules require hook, so that you can also skip your CSS compilation and such. And it was really fun to do, and it's worked completely, and then you fired up Electron, and it would load the app a lot more quickly because you didn't need to rebuild completely. So that was an interesting approach.
Line one. Okay, so when I work on like side projects, and I just started one recently, I like to do people use Webpack to compile like their Node server, like their Express server as well? Because I do. So previously when I would do this, I would have to use concurrently or something, and like have a separate watch task for my like my backend or my backend bundle or my server bundle and my client side bundle. It was a big pain in the ass, and so I think it was Eric Clemens came out with came out with this Webpack plugin called something like Start Server Webpack plugin, I think is what it is. Very simple plugin. All it does is if you use it on the bundle that your server bundle in watch mode, and every time it emits a new bundle, it'll just run that. You do node bundle and run that bundle, so you don't have to have like node daemon or something like that running separately and like watching the bundle like some people or like I used to do. So that essentially I have it set up so that I have this start plugin. Watching with Webpack, automatically running the Express server. Then on the Express server, I'm also running Webpack Dev middleware and Webpack Dev server, running the client-side Webpack bundle with hot reload, both of them hot reloaded. Essentially, it's just like one Webpack command that runs both my client and watches both my client and my server bundles all at once, and it's nice. I was happy when I got that set up. So maybe check that plugin out. It's pretty cool.
I just wonder what would have happened if several developers sat here now and heard you say that to them.
Sorry?
I wonder what would happen if several developers sat in the crowd now and heard you describe it. They're like, what the fuck is happening on the code? It's getting complicated.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool. Maybe I feel like it's basically in that working examples in their repo, but maybe I'll push like the setup that I came up with. It's not super clever, but it was a lot nicer like, in terms of error messages and reloading than it was than what I previously had. So.
What is it called again?
I think it's Start Server Webpack plugin. If that doesn't come up, then search those words plus Eric Clemens, who was the guy that made it. Pretty nifty.
I'm sure everyone's heard of Flow. It's not really a non-popular project, but I can't. I mean, as far as something that I use when writing projects that I enjoy a lot is using Flow, a lot of Flow, and using IDE integrations like ThinkFlow or like the Atom Flow integration. It's really nice, really intelligent, complete, and sometimes I think that I'm a smart person and I wrote good code, and then I'll run flow check, and that proves to be untrue. So it's good. It keeps my apps honest.
So yeah, I want to just double endorse Flow. I didn't answer earlier about the type of script question, but I'm I guess I'm partial to Flow now because I'm on Facebook, so I don't want to like be rude or whatever. But I think Flow is great. I haven't used TypeScript, I guess, that much, so I don't have an objective opinion. But Flow is great. It's one of those things where you're going to get the most benefit out of it if you use it like everywhere. And it's really great for like refactoring. And if you used Flow like maybe a year ago or 2 years ago and you had a bad experience, try it again because it's gotten a lot better. I tried it like a year and a half ago and I was like, it's kind of. There's so many weird bugs, but it's gotten way better. Same with Jest, actually. Jest has gotten super great. I used to not like it at all, but it's gotten really good over the last year. It's got really fast. The watch mode is incredible. Yeah, so check those two out if you, at one point, tried them and didn't think they were that great, because they've gotten way better.
Excellent. Yeah, question now? Jest is really getting very good.
Yeah, so, hi. I think we can agree that React basically was created to compensate for, I mean, Angular had a really good run, Angular 1 had a really good run, but it had all kinds of issues crop up, and React kind of arose maybe as a response to that and other things. I was wondering, I mean, now that Angular 2 is out, and we don't actually need React anymore, what are you guys going to do next? No, I actually have a serious question. I'm sorry? Okay. No, I do have a question about the relationship with Angular. The Angular team was inspired by a lot of the things that came from React, like the virtual DOM and unidirectional flow and other things. I was wondering, how you see Angular 2 and the new stuff that it's doing affecting React. That's a serious question. Just to
I have to admit I have hardly experience with Angular, just a little bit of experimenting. But we were originally coming from, maybe you will still know it, Dojo. And it's like a framework that was really cool and solved all the browser problems. And if you stay for it with 10 years, then it wasn't really cool anymore. And that was really nasty, actually. And so what we learned from that is that if you have a long-running project which you expect to be maintaining for years, that you want to be able to swap out a feature piece by something that makes it better. And I think in that philosophy, React is a better fit than Angular. So that would be my take on it.
Why?
Because it's just a view, basically. It's not always entirely true, but I mean, I can imagine that I can replace React even with something like a JoJo or something if I want to. And Angular doesn't give me the feeling that I have the flexibility if I need it.
So what do you guys think about Angular? That's a question that has been raised. So Angular basically copied most of the cool stuff from React. Taking stuff from Polymer, from everywhere, which is a good thing. You collect stuff from open source, you figure out what works best, you complicate it a little bit or a lot, and then you release it yesterday. So I don't know if you had the chance to look at how Angular works, but do you think maybe in Angular there are some features that React might want to use in the future? Some nice things?
So yeah, I don't know anything about Angular 2. Does it still have templates?
I guess so.
Yeah, I don't want to use it.
Angular here?
I don't want to use it if it has templates. That's kind of where I stopped it. No, well, I am being serious, but I don't know if there are like cool features. I think it's great for React to steal as many cool ideas as it can. I think it's cool some of these alternative DOM libraries that have come out. They're like really focused on performance. They're kind of interesting. I think if any of them come out and they have like a really cool idea, I think of course React would be shameless of us doing it. I don't know anything about Angular though, so.
I haven't seen anything in Angular 2 yet that I think would go over to React or would inspire React. I am, however, interested to see the Angular 3 fiber architecture.
All right, guys, we have time for one last question from the audience. So who thinks he has the best question ever? I see people raise their hand and then lower it after asking. How bad was the question? All right, so we have to choose. We'll give to the lady.
So how do you prefer to structure your application and in folder structure? Some for feature folders, some component sections, users and so on, some structure roles, and what do you prefer?
So it's actually a very good question because we've been just debating the same thing like 2 days ago. So we've been experimenting with pretty much all these structures internally, including grouping by domain, by feature, having like separate modules inside the app. And what we have noticed is that for our use cases or for the scale of the projects that we are doing, the most common and easiest to work with setup is when we just have the folders like components, reducers or whatever, and we just group them all together. Because the problem we had with modules was that they were great until we had some cross-references between them which were producing a mess. I mean, conceptually, the setup was quite cool because you were able to just create a core of our home, but the point is we were never planning to reuse these modules. So what was the point of having them in app at all? So that was our saying in our project. So an answer from me would be, you can start with just plain structure and see how it evolves, how your application is growing.
So mostly for libraries, I'll do like a source folder that transpiles to a lib folder. I'll have like a components folder, group them by category with like a common folder, but no, that's for libraries. In applications, especially complex ones, and especially when using Redux, I really enjoyed the Dux pattern. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it puts the constants, actions, and reducer all in one file, and you have that right there, and it's actually pretty lovely. I use that along with Sagas, and it helps keep, rather than having like one big actions file, and then like having to go there and like add like the 93rd action, you have it grouped by domains. Like, hey, this is cart or something like that, and okay, in here I can see exactly what actions are going to get fired in this particular section or via this particular module, and then it's all right there rather than hopping around.
We tend to structure everything per feature, and the main reason for that is that our project is developed by multiple teams simultaneously, so sometimes we shift some features around to our teams, and that's way easier if it is structured together, so that it's very easy to move pieces of code around, and you also it's the easy way you introduce coupling.
So, file structure is, for me personally, like one of those things, kind of like linting rules and stuff like that, where I just don't care that much. I mean, I care that it's consistent, I guess, but like I don't have a strong opinion. My strongest opinion is that I don't like it. To me, like putting things in a new folder or trying to like decide your folder structure too early before you know it any better is analogous to like when you create an abstraction too early, like before you've repeated it a few times, which in my opinion is like way worse than just repeating it a few times and figuring out where all the patterns are before you create the abstraction, because bad abstractions are terrible and awful and a lot worse than just no abstraction. Anyway, so this is I guess an awkward analogy, but my big pet peeve is when people try like extra hard to start organizing things into folders before the project is really grown and you've gotten to like see where the patterns are emerging. So my preference is just to kind of put things in just a few folders, even if you have a bunch of files in there, until you find like the right, because every project's a little different, until you find like the right structure that works for you.
So I have one last question for you guys, and that's a question for the future. Everything is changing so fast, new libraries coming every day. How do you keep up with news, information, and updates in this world? What's the easiest way for us to follow and see as things change and not fall behind? Except for coming to conferences, of course.
Personally, I mainly use Twitter and Reddit a bit. And I do is mainly keyword scanning. Yeah, sorry about it. And what I mainly do is keyword scanning and don't try to investigate everything until I feel I have a problem somewhere.
Are there any maybe newsletters or I don't know, Twitter accounts that really try to keep things aggregated and focused? I personally don't know. I don't know, newsletters, something?
There is the...
How to follow up what's happening with the React world. So if there are Twitter accounts that are really well aggregated, they have good news, or maybe newsletters that are to the point, not just a lot of new projects that I don't really care about. Something focused, easy to digest.
I mean, I think Twitter is still an answer. It's up to you who you follow. Like if you follow people that you care, you know, I mean, about their thoughts. Like I've seen people following like hundreds of people. I follow like I don't know, maybe 90 or something like that. But you know, the key is to follow, you know, people that you know that have something interesting to share.
Can you give us suggestions for who do you guys follow that's the best source of news for you? It must be Twitter follow.
I think a must-have is Dan Abramov anyway. Because I mean, every day I open Twitter, you know, there is that section things you have missed when you were away. There is always like his tweet with some cool library or yeah, you should check out this stuff. He's very good at this kinds of things, so I would say that's a must if you want to stay up to date.
Yeah, I just call Dan Abramov and I say, hey Dan, what's new in the React world? And he fills me in. Mostly.
So we'll all call him.
No, seriously, no. If you, you know, mostly just Twitter, right? I think most of it's from Twitter. I mean, you know, there's like newsletters and Reddit and GitHub. You know, if you follow projects on GitHub, you know, you follow like if you want to know what's going on in React, right? You just go to the GitHub issues in React and follow long threads of, you know, should we get rid of component wheel mount type stuff? Yeah, you'll have your finger on the pulse there. You know, if you want to. If you're on Twitter and something cool's happening, you're probably going to see it because everyone's like, oh, you're great stuff. Yeah, Twitter.
I'm a big Twitter fan. Like, I use it not just for tech stuff and React stuff, but I use it for like everything. Like that's how I get my news in the morning. I probably spend way too much time on it. So I don't subscribe. I used to subscribe to and follow like a focused set of people so that you only see like good stuff. But at a certain, and I was also a completionist where I read every single tweet. Somewhere around like 300 people I was following, I realized I'd much rather just always have content, even if some of it's crap. And I also have this like kind of moral stance where I don't like unfollowing people because I feel like it'll just create a filter bubble. So if someone like starts to annoy me in my feed, I like make an effort not to unfollow that person because I don't want to like create like this pristine little bubble around Andrew. So I follow like 1,000 people, which sounds insane, but it works really well for me. Like Ken says, like if there's something that's really cool and I'm following like someone that's like slightly connected to them, I'm going to see it. And I mean, maybe it only works if you spend as much time on Twitter as I do, but yeah, Twitter, I don't know how it works. It's just a giant stream of rant tweets that are in chronological order, plus like every once in a while like the what you missed things. But for whatever reason, this product, it doesn't seem like it has that much thought put into it, actually like seems to service things pretty well for me. So if you follow the right people and you just keep following interesting people, cool stuff tends to surface. I mean, that's how I met Dan. Like, it might not be Redux if there's no Twitter. So that's how I think that's how I met Ken. I think that's how I met basically everybody that I know. If it wasn't on GitHub, it was probably on Twitter. So it's a very cool tool. And I think it's where most of like the conversation about React is happening.
So specifically in terms of React Native, for instance, if you want to be up to date, there is the React Native community group on Facebook, where people from the community are posting, I mean, not only issues, but there's also like, hey, I made this cool library, check it out. Or have you used this and this? So this is a good way to stay up to date. If you are interested in being up to date with React Native development itself, then there is the React Core Contributors group, where you can see like what's the progress of, I don't know, developing local CLI or what's everything doing with Windows stuff. So yeah, so these two groups on Facebook is a must-have if you want to be into React Native.
Who is also nice to follow is somebody who follows, I think, like everybody who uses JavaScript and Twitter. And that's Eric Elliott. I think he follows like 30,000 people. So I kind of use him as filter for what is happening. I more often do not agree with him as agree with him, but he follows everything, so you at least see everything passing by that might be interesting.
Cool. Guys, thank you very much. Unfortunately, the time. Before we go, we have two more things. Some closing words by Ilya, and of course, the raffle of the PlayStation. And again, big thank you for the panel, amazing information. And if you have specific questions, you can catch them for only 5 minutes, and then they go home to sleep because of time. Cool. Guys, thank you.